Right. So we had a workshop in Bogota, and almost half of the day was dedicated to an open space format in which we invited the participants to propose themes or more specific themes about CPD. And these are the ones that the emerging themes, not all of them, but the most representative of them that we had in this first workshop. So there were discussions about using a coaching model for CPD or in CPD programs, how to motivate teachers and school leaders to join CPD activities, how to innovate or examples of innovation in CPD, the British Council framework Teaching for Success as a tool, as a framework for everything, basically from program design to the delivery of strategies to monitoring and evaluation. Then we discussed how schools or schools in basic education and teachers from other subjects can join forces with English language teachers in their CPD efforts. Monitoring evaluation, I'm going to focus more on that in my next couple of slides. And collaborative expertise as well as a framework, as a concept, is a construct to develop CPD programs. So this, for you guys who have worked here in the British Council projects in Colombia, you know more about that. For example, with the programs Aliados 10 or School to School, and a couple more. Right, so I would like to also tell you about from this workshop, the conditions for successful CPD. So in our workshops, we usually ask our participants in their context, what are the conditions for successful CPD? In the workshop we had, well, in all of them, the three of them, we had the roundtable discussions, and all of the discussions were captured and either by note takers or audio recordings, and then I received all of that information and was able to do a thematic analysis of the themes that were recurrent or that were very much talked about. So these are some of them. Sustainability in CPD. So basically here we're talking about the C in CPD, how to make it continuing, consistent, etc., etc. Collaboration, evidence-based CPD. One of the main principles in the project is, again, to encourage, to promote an approach to CPD that's based on current research, based on evidence, based on what we know that is good CPD. We also have been discussing public policies, because we have a lot of people coming from the public sector in our workshops and in our community of practice. This is a key factor as well to be discussed and developed in terms of CPD, to make it a more an integral part of policies in education, and not an extra or something around the policies, but part of it, central part of it. And then out of the 6 or 7 tables we had in our first workshop, the discussion that got most attendees or people were drawn to it was a discussion on monitoring evaluation. With one of the main concerns or challenges is to have evaluation instruments that are aligned with the objectives of the CPD programs we take part. And then finally, a recurring topic in any conversation about CPD is motivation, how to be motivated to engage and how to motivate others to engage in CPD. So let's jump into in more detail to monitoring and evaluation. Right, so the challenges are many. Main ones found in our discussion was obviously money, funds. So if a client or an institution or a public institution wants to fund some sort of professional development to their network, the actual delivery of it, meaning teacher trainers or mentors, and designing the program and workshops and going to schools or having them come to a training center. This is the main focus and the main where the money goes most of the time, which means there is not usually enough money to invest, I would say, in monitoring and evaluation. Or if there is, there are some other things that become challenges, such as the next point I have here, which is expertise. Sometimes teacher trainers like myself, we are working as mentors or as trainers, and we know the content very well. We know pedagogical content. We know how to teach, how to transmit that to other teachers, how to motivate other teachers. Do I really know how to evaluate the impact of my training? That is a question that needs to be discussed further, because I think it happens often that teacher trainers and mentors lack sometimes knowledge in terms of monitoring progress and more than anything, evaluating the outcomes of a program or the programs that they take part in. So that expertise sometimes becomes a challenge in programs. In terms of program design, everything here is related. Actually, they overlap. In terms of program design, the discussion that we had touched upon the idea that sometimes programs lack very, very, very clear and specific objectives. And then at the end of the program, we are asked to evaluate it, and then it becomes very difficult because in the beginning we didn't have very, very clear objectives. The objectives cannot be to develop teachers, that is too general. It has to be something very specific, so towards the end of the program we are able to evaluate it better. So program design, monitoring, and evaluation should start together in any program or situation. Then we have time, which is always a challenge in any type of program we have. And then to more specific things about evaluation. And then I have a couple of questions for you after this, so you can also join the discussion. The first is many CPD programs towards at some point in the middle or towards the end ask teachers how they felt about the intervention or the workshops or the mentoring, what have you. These are based, then the answers then are based on their opinions or their perception of how it went. So usually from not satisfied to very satisfied, and there are maybe 10 questions in a questionnaire, and teachers answer that. That is valuable, that is extremely important to the work we do. However, that is not enough. So this is something that was discussed in our first workshop. It's not enough for teachers to say, I'm very satisfied. Why? This is linked to the second bit here. There is no evidence, real evidence of student achievement. We have to trust and believe the teachers are telling us the truth, but we cannot really know for sure. So the final challenge there is probably the biggest one, is how to measure the impact of CPD activities on actual student achievement. Can we do this through standardized tests? Sometimes we can, but then again, 3 to 6 to even 10-month long CPD program, can that really impact on student achievement in the same year? Probably not. So if we take a national exam of English or any other subject at the end of the year, can use that indicator to measure the impact of our CPD programs? Probably not in a short term. In the long term, we could possibly do that. So these were the main challenges. In terms of recommendations about monitoring evaluation, we had the first one there, partnerships. This means, for example, if we have our challenges, our limitations in our program design to include monitoring and evaluation in there, and to sell it, so to speak, so someone has to pay for that. In this case, an alternative would be to partner with universities, with professors and students in PhD programs, for example, who need data, want data to develop their research, but sometimes might not have easy access to that data, to raw data from real actual projects. In this case, there could be this partnership where a university would be in charge of the research in terms of monitoring and evaluation in the program. The second one, and this in this first workshop is worth saying, I think everyone there, all of us were related somehow to the work of the British Council. So a lot of the conversation was based on the work of the British Council. And in this case, we talked about influencing policy making, in that when we are asked to design a program, a CPD program, that we really push really hard that it includes a monitoring evaluation component on the one hand, and on the other, when we are taking part of discussions on public policy, that we also raise awareness of how extremely important it is to have a monitoring evaluation component in our programs. And lastly, is again to have an evidence-based approach to program design evaluation. There is literature on this, and there is actual experience on this as well. So firstly, to be very careful and very attentive to information management from day one of a project to its last day, so we can gather all this evidence and then have it as documented to propose or to implement future programs. So this is also very, very essential in the work we do. So these are the main recommendations that I have come up in our open space conversation.